You're listening to GotTechED the Podcast with your hosts, Eric Geis and Nick Johnson.
Welcome back to GotTechED the Podcast. This is episode 41 called 30 Resources for the New School Year. In this episode, Nick and I curate 30 of our favorite resources to jumpstart the new year. We've each selected our favorite teacher blogs, EdTech Tools, and educational podcasts. This is our GotTechED Awards episode. Get excited because this one is one that you're not going to want to miss. Nick, we're back with episode 41. I'm super pumped because I love award shows on TV, the music awards. I'm a big fan of country, the movies. I like to watch movies, and this time we're going to play our spin, and we're going to give EdTech Awards.
Everybody loves award shows, even if you're not into music or movies or that kind of stuff. At the very least, you get to agree or disagree with what Geis and I have picked out here. We've got, I think we counted them individually, 30 different resources that we've brought together within a bunch of different categories just to kind of give people listening as many options as possible to gather ideas and find some creative ways to, really, I like to think about it as jump-starting the new school year. We are in the sort of like maximum overload time of getting those juices flowing and thinking about what you're going to have your students do that's new and exciting. So hopefully this episode will bring some cool things to the table.
All right, let's get right into our EdTech Awards for this year. And these EdTech Awards, we listen to our students, we listen to our teachers, we work with our teachers implementing tech into the classroom. And these are the ones that we like, that they like, and we kind of made a couple different categories. And we're just going to go through these pretty quickly, but these are our EdTech Awards for tech tools, and this includes apps, extensions, platforms, anything, websites, whatever. It's pretty much whatever we say kind of goes here. What do you think about that?
Yeah, this is like our all-encompassing, no borders. As long as it's EdTech, we can select it. And you touched on it, but the important part of this is that we're considering here, of course, our opinions because we selected them, but a lot of what we hear from other teachers using these tools, and also a lot of what we hear from our students using these tools to give us the EdTech Awards. And I think we've got 9 categories. A lot of them are the same categories we've referenced in the past, but some different ones too. Assessment, gamification, video screencasting, curation, productivity, feedback, audio, recording and editing, and a extension category to focus specifically on those. So maybe let's take it from the top, you think?
Yeah, and I just want to throw this out there. These are the ones that, a lot of times we give you a whole bunch of resources. Sometimes they do the same thing, but it is tailored to your choice, like what fits you the best.
Right.
These are the ones that fit us the best or fit our students the best or our teachers the best. So we know that they work. We know that they're an awesome platform. So check some of these out. If you have time, you're in a PLC, bring these to your PLC, check them out, see what you could do. So let's start at the top at assessment. And for here, we're talking about online quizzes, assessments, things like that.
So my award for assessment is going to go to Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle's got the award for me because it's absolutely my favorite one. In a flipped classroom environment, if your students are viewing videos at home, especially YouTube videos, you need to be using Edpuzzle. For me, it's like my main go-to for formative assessment. My students watch a video at home, and I want to know what they made sense of from that video, and Edpuzzle does that for me. And if you don't know, you can incorporate questions that where the video automatically pauses and the students answer a question before they can continue watching the video, so it sort of helps keep track of their understanding as they go. It's an awesome tool.
Yeah, shout out to Edpuzzle. They do a great job. That is like the missing link from YouTube that really makes YouTube educational, helps us teachers make those videos more purposeful for learning. I went with, this is one that fits in many categories, but I went with GimKit. For the last 4 or 5 years, our school has been using Kahoot. And last year we showed GimKit for the first time to a couple teachers, and it's growing like wildfire. I mean, made by, I guess, a recent grad from Seattle, from a high school in Seattle. This is phenomenal gamification. it would fit in that category as well, but I use it for my assessment. It allows students to collect points that they earn from answering questions right and then buy in-game incentives. Like if they pay 30 coins of in-game money, they get the next 3 questions, they earn triple the coin amount or whatever the in-game money is. And it really teaches them how to manage their money, but also it's just a fun way of getting content out there, seeing what they know. It gives them instant feedback at the end. And I've heard students are playing other teachers' GIMP kits for fun.
Yeah. I think that speaks the most about GIMP. Kids really love that one. For our gamification category, I kind of went with a simpler choice this time, but not the flashiest, but sometimes your students don't want all the glitz and the glam and the features. They just want it to be one thing and one thing that does it well. So I went with something called Tiny Cards. Tiny Cards is my favorite choice for online digital flashcards. There's a lot of choices out there today. One thing that stands out is that students really, at least at the high school level, they really respond, I find, to the flashcards. So if you've seen this in your students or you want to push another option out to them, one that I think is particularly good for gamifying, check out tinycards.com. They can make their own flashcards. They can search and use other previously created flashcards. And it's just a nice, easy way to kind of let students test themselves and, of course, in a game-like environment. So that's a new one that I don't think I've brought up before, but I think could be a player in the future.
The gamification EdTech tool that I used is Classcraft. And this is one I think we talked about maybe way back in episode 10, but they keep coming out with new features to it and they're staying on top of the gamification game. But in Classcraft, you're able to make an avatar. Each student's able to make an avatar and they collect points by doing good behaviors, their homework, getting an A on a test, whatever you want to put in there. They could also lose points if you want to use that as a behavior management tool, but there's a lot of, taking on these pit bosses almost as a class. Using their avatars, using their points. Super cool. We say that this is a great tool not only for the Gen Ed students, but the AP students or the honor students, but it also motivates the unmotivated student. And that's where I find this to be like the next level gamification tool.
Yeah, great for motivation, Classcraft. Our next category is video. So this could be video creation, video editing, kind of however you want to look at it. And I'm going to go with one that we've talked about a bit recently, but I think it's going to be just recently a lot of really cool new features in this thing. It's called Headliner. Headliner, sort of in the way you would want, lets people just sort of drag in different tracks. Can be images that you can extend for the whole length of the video or different portions of it. You can drag in other video segments. You can drag in or add in audio. That's kind of what it's designed for, is making advertisements, especially for podcasts, with the little audio bars. They're called them audiograms that kind of visualize the sound or the audio that's in there. But that's just one of the things that Headliner does. I like to use it for my students because it's just an easy, free way to edit videos together because of that drag and drop feature. So I think that's a smart choice for my Video EdTech Award.
I went with WeVideo for Video EdTech Award just because of how easy it is to use. You could use it for video. Now they're adding podcasting features where you could edit the audio for it. You could easily export it to YouTube, Google Drive, that stuff. So just the ease of the platform and how many purposes it could be used for. WeVideo gets that award. The next one we actually agree on, and this is screencasting, and we both like Screencast-O-Matic. They now have a Google extension, so go check that out. It's similar to Loom. It's similar to Screencastify. I just think the editing options are a little bit better. Curation. Let's go to curation.
Yeah, this is always an interesting category because it's broad, really just gathering resources for your students, and there's a lot of great ways to do this. I again went with a simple option here, and that is something called Pinup. Pinup is really just a digital corkboard for your students. I like this if I'm going to be absent from school because I can create a board for my students and it lets you add things to the board just like you would a real life corkboard where you can pin pictures, sticky notes. The sticky notes that we could use as like a to-do list, and you're absent for the day and the students work through that to-do list. Really what you're doing as you build your pinup board, you're just curating resources for your kids to use, and I think there's almost endless possibilities for this one. And it's kind of fun because, it looks visually, it looks like an actual, like a corkboard would look. So check out Pinup.
Mine is Wakelet, and this EdTech tool took great strides linking up with Flipgrid. So they're now compatible with each other. And this is going to be a monster tool for curation, because you could throw in websites, you could throw in PDFs, you could throw in pictures and all that. And then you could share them with your students. You could share them with your colleagues. You can make them visible and searchable by other teachers. So when they're on there, they can look at the collections you've made. You could send these collections. You could collaborate on the collections. It's just an amazing tool. And now that you can incorporate some of the unique features of Flipgrid with your Wakelet collections is next level stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad we're not competing, because Wakelet, I mean, that's a pretty heavy hitter there. Such an awesome way to curate stuff for your kids. Within productivity, I've been using this so much recently, I had to give it my award. It's called Save to Google Drive, and it's an extension where if you're looking things up online and you find really anything, but let's just say a document that you want to save somewhere and file it away, it can be kind of a pain with the downloading process. But with Save to Google Drive, within the Chrome browser, it's kind of automatically pops up a one-click option, and it just automatically saves things straight to your Google Drive without you really doing any work. If you want to go a little further, you can organize it right there too, and tell it, give it a direction or a home, like which folder to go in. But I usually don't do that. I just dump everything in my Google Drive and figure out where it goes later. Productivity, getting things done quick. Check out Save to Google Drive.
Productivity for me is OneTab, and until something comes along and beats this will always be my go-to extension for productivity. OneTab is the tech coach's extension. I work with a different teacher pretty much every period throughout the day, and incorporating different projects with tech options. So one teacher comes in for the first period of the day. I might have 10 tabs open to kind of go through that whole project with that teacher. The next period, I'll have another 10. And the next period, another 10. And this drives Nick nuts when he has that many tabs on his computer. So what I do after first period, when I'm done working with that teacher, I hit the OneTab extension, and they put all those URLs into a hyperlinked web page. This web page, you can name it, you can lock it so you can't delete it, you can star it so it stays up at the top, or the best feature yet is you could share it out to other teachers by just copying and pasting the URL. Here's the thing. Picture this for your students. You're doing a project on the human anatomy, and each student is given a different system. Well, maybe you found 15 good websites that has pictures, information, and stuff like that. You're on a time crunch, so you don't want to have them spending too much time getting these different resources, so you wanted to curate a list of resources for them. Grab the URLs, hit the OneTab extension button. It goes into a savable list, and tell them that they have to work off of that list.
Yeah, I don't like OneTab because I don't like tabs, but I see if you're doing as you described and kind of sharing things.
But you like organization, and that's super organized.
I get it. Yeah, I was just going to say that part appeals to me. For our feedback category, I picked another favorite. It's an easy choice for my award. It's called Classroom Q. Classroom Q, it's like a digital hand-raising tool. So if you're tired of kind of having your students sit there with their hands raised as you work your way around, and a lot of them, along the way, they sort of give up and say, whatever, I don't want to keep my hand up. The teacher's too busy helping a whole group of other students. Now they can just hit a big red button on their phone or on their computer. And as the teacher, you get to see a list generated of students who have hit that button. So it's kind of like raising their hand, but it never goes away. And there's also ways for them to actually type in specific questions there, so you can see that as a teacher and respond that way if you want to.
The great thing about that is if you project that as a teacher on the board, and another student can help that student, then you got multiple experts in the classroom, and that just makes that whole class more productive. This is a great tool for middle school, but I have also incorporated it into some high school classes. I'm working with some teachers of bringing it into the high school, and they love it. So that's a great one. I chose for feedback Edgy Notes. This is one of my favorites just because of its functionality, and it really serves a purpose that fills the gap in education. And it's a great feedback tool, collaboration tool. I could see multiple uses in English, but I could also see ways that you could put it into every single curriculum. So basically you just copy and paste into this into a space on the platform, and then you give the students directions. So if I wrote a paper and my teacher wanted it to be proofread by the class, they could throw my paper into there without my name on it, and students can go and highlight, strong points, weak points, criticisms, leave comments and stuff like that. And that student can get feedback that way. So I really love Edgy Notes. Let's go into audio recording and editing. So we're going to agree to disagree, because I know that if you really had to throw it out there, you're going Audacity.
If I had to, yes, Audacity is probably the best one for both things. But I didn't want to agree, because I went with a simple choice, literally just for nothing except recording. You can't go any easier than something called Simple Audio Recorder. And I know Audacity, you guys will tell you about in a second, does everything this is going to do. It just looks a lot more complicated, and I think sometimes that can turn people off. If your only goal is to have a method of recording a voice, Simple Audio Recorder is the way to do it. You add it to your computer, but then it's literally just a button to start recording and a button to stop. So you always can't go wrong with stuff like that.
Yeah, I chose Audacity just because of how easy it is to use. It might look intimidating, but it's pretty easy. The only downfall with Audacity, I hope someone from Audacity is listening to this, make a Chrome extension, make some type of way to put it on a Chromebook, make it a platform-based thing. I'm begging you, because students love it, but the thing is our students have Chromebooks, and it's not compatible with the Chromebooks. So I'm really hoping that someday that they get something that's compatible with Chromebooks. But let's go into our extension, and we both agree on this one. This one is a new one, and it's fantastic. It's called eComments. And eComments is the Mamma Jamma feedback tool, an online grading tool. So if students work in a Google Doc, it's an extension. You add the extension eComments, you open it up, you turn it on, and when you turn it on, there's all these canned comments for different types of projects. So you no longer have to hit the comment button, type in, hey, you did a great job here, but you need a little bit more detail. There's a canned comment for that. Or you can make your own canned comments. Or better yet, you could add a voice comment or a video comment at the click of a button. It's super easy, super effective, and super awesome.
Yeah, I had to agree with this one. Like you said, it may be the last automatic commenter for Google Docs that you ever need, because it does everything. So that was 9 categories. I guess we didn't each make our own extension. We agreed on 2 of them. So 16 different of our top EdTech awards. Hopefully there's something for everybody on this list, again, to help you start your new school year. You can follow GotTechED outside the podcast at GotTech.com or on Twitter at WeGotTechED.
So let's just get right into it. And one of the things that we've invested a lot more time in recently is blogging. And we have a blog, right? We throw out a couple blog posts here and there, and hopefully you guys find those useful. But we also look at other blogs. And we decided to come up with our 3 favorite blogs. So my 3 favorite, Nick's 3 favorite, and we're going to talk about them a little bit.
Yeah, I used to give Geis a hard time when we started this whole thing, and going back years actually, because I was never into reading blogs. I didn't get it. I used to kind of say, why would anybody want to do this type of reading on their own time? But just sort of slowly as we've gotten into this world a little bit more, there's actually a lot of great stuff out there. Really, a blog is nothing more. I don't know why I didn't see this from the beginning, but a blog is nothing more than like a mini article almost of teachers writing about things that work, and you can get so many cool ideas. It doesn't take a bunch of time, so this should be an interesting segment.
Yeah, and there's many great blogs out there, and we're just scratching the surface. And for some of them, we're trying to pick ones that aren't always on the front line of educational blogging, maybe going a little bit deeper into it, but we still have some that are pretty popular out there. But these are the ones that I kind of hold near and dear to me, because I just find the quality being there. All right, so the first one is freetechforteachers.com. It's by Richard Byrne, and this guy, people know him. I mean, he does great things. He makes guides. He comes out with top lists. He does a little bit of everything. And I don't know, I looked this stat up on him. He posts like somewhere between 14 and 18 blog posts per month on average.
Wow.
And I know over the summer that there were a couple days where he had like 4 or 5 out within, hours of each other. But he's up to date. And he definitely he's a go-to place for everything tech.
So I think for me, all you need to know is that right in the title of his website, free tech for teachers. Anything free has got my vote right off the bat.
Yeah, and it's quality too. So he also does some PD workshops, and I believe I saw him speak at a conference or 2 already, so I know he's around speaking at conferences. But go check him out. Free resources. There's lesson plans and other things that will help the teachers of the world get a little bit better incorporating tech into their classroom. So I guess I'll just do my 3 and then we'll roll with yours.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you go through your 3 and then I'll kick in with mine.
All right, the next one is EdSurge. EdSurge is you could go to the website and they have a lot of things there, but there's a lot of EdTech information, and this is a resource community. This is where I go to check out EdTech. I want to look at reviews. They have a directory on their website, and basically they categorize these pieces of EdTech. So if you want something with collaboration, you could go there, go under collaboration, and it'll be this massive list. And you could separate them, or they have it separated by different ages or grade levels and things like that. So it's a good place to do research. A lot of times when we're prepping for our podcast, I'll go to EdSurge and really just explore the space a little bit and see what I could come up with. But you got to go there.
I don't really know EdSurge out of the ones you've done so far, so that's definitely one I'm going to probably check out myself.
The next one is teacherthought.com. This is a progressive blog for all educators that are looking to make themselves more digitally connected with the world. So they have a lot of great blogs there. Sometimes they're about tech, other times they're not. I read an article that was posted or contributed by Ian Lancaster on there. It was called The 8 Characteristics of a Good Teacher. And I thought that just to break up my section here a little bit, I think what we could do here is see if you could get some of these 8 characteristics of a good teacher, because that's my goal this year. I want to make sure that I encompass a lot of these skills. Therefore, I'm supportive in there for my students.
You want me to try to guess all these things on the spot right now?
Just guess one. Guess a couple.
All right. I mean, I can throw some things out there that jump to mind. Right away, I think a good teacher, I always call it bravery. I guess there's a lot of ways to say that, but just sort of trying new things, not being afraid to almost like take those risks in a way.
Yeah, I would say that was number 6, which is risk-taking.
Okay, risk-taking.
So I'm just curious, if you had to debate, if there's a third person here and they ask us the question, who is more of a risk taker? Who would you say, me or you?
I think you're classroom-wise, for sure, the risk taker. I'm a little bit cautious sometimes in like trying new things. I need to be sure that it works first.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue.
You can't.
I would say that one fits me.
Yep.
All right, how about another one?
All right, so how about years in the classroom? That's an easy one too.
I don't know if that's really on there.
Okay.
But I'm going to just put it with the category that's closest. They have life experience.
Okay.
For me, personally, I think, I am older, but life experience is a lot different when I think of this as a storyteller, someone that can bring it into the classroom.
Okay.
I've heard you tell stories. I tell stories. A lot of times I will lie to my students. I do it constantly. It's part of the science process. They need to tell what's fact and what's fiction. They have to be able to test it. But I really like reaching out into my life experiences and maybe incorporating those into the classroom a little bit. And maybe sometimes I stretch them a little bit. But on the other hand, I've sat in the back of your classroom prepping for a lab or doing whatever I'm doing, and I hear you tell totally different stories about a narwhal and a squirrel and, all that stuff and their chemical geniuses. And I think this one's a little bit of a wash.
Yeah, it's kind of a tie. We both sort of do that, and I might have even learned it from you when we first started coming in, but just saying interesting things about your life and sort of bringing that to what you're teaching the kids to kind of tie in that interest. We probably would tie on that one, but how about this is an interesting one that I think would have to make a list for what great teachers have: confidence.
Yeah, confidence is definitely on there. And this one's a weird one. I would say I'm more confident in front of the classroom when it comes to classroom management, because I'm a little bit bigger of a guy and I don't really need to try that much. But
well, you've got the coach, right? You've got the coach mentality.
But I think you have more of the expertise in chemistry. Like sometimes you come up with ways that are weird, and I mean that in a good way. Like I would never think of, you know, talking about electrons using ninjas. And I think that comes, that part of it comes from confidence, because you know that material forward and backwards. I know biology. I'm not worried about biology, but the thing is you have layers to your lessons, and you kind of tailor them to what your students like a little bit more than I do. So I'll give you the confidence one.
All right, listen to this. I like this list so far, but now I'm running out of ideas for these 8 things. What about time management on there in any way?
We'll call this, they focus on the important stuff, because if you get too much fluff in there, you're going to be off course. And this is one I will tell you, I go on tangents all the time.
Oh yeah, I'm the time management guy for sure out of the two
Nick
of us.
is super organized. He has lists for his list, and they're in alphabetical order.
That's true. I got lists on sublists on sublists, so that's an easy one. What about, it's GotTech the Podcast. How about tech use, teachers using tech? I think that belongs on the list.
It is. It's number 5.
Okay.
And they're technologically capable. Now notice that that's not saying they're masters in it. They're just able to incorporate it. They're not afraid to incorporate it. They see where it is relevant and where it's not relevant, and they bring it in when it's going to enhance the lesson. So that's definitely on there, and that's a wash. I'm not even going to debate that. We both do that.
All right. So if tech use is on there, then probably related to that would be I see this happen a lot of times as teachers get further down in their careers, and sometimes this fades from how it is at the beginning of your career, and that's motivation. I think staying motivated is big for good teachers.
Yeah, motivation is on there, but it's more tailored to students.
Okay.
So they understand each student's motivation. So that was number 3.
Okay.
And that goes with the personalized learning that we've been kind of going over on the last 5 or 6 podcasts. So let's just go over them and see which ones we covered. Demonstrate confidence. We're both confident, but I give it to you. Slight edge.
Nice.
They have life experience. I'm older and probably more wiser, so I give that to me. Understand student motivation. That's a wash. This one's an interesting one. We didn't cover it. They're people, not heroes. So I love this one, because you got to be able to show your students that you can be vulnerable. And this is one thing that I was horrible at. I acted like I was the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm far from it. And once I got over that barrier of making sure that they thought I was perfect, which I never was able to do, and I failed at, and they didn't like me for it anyway. Thank you, rateyourteacher.com or whatever. Once I got over that and I showed them that I could be vulnerable and I'm not perfect, they kind of relate with that. And
yep.
I think that's a great thing.
Yep.
Number 5, they're technologically capable. 6, they model risk-taking. 7, they focus on the important stuff. And 8, we didn't talk about either. They don't worry too much about what administrators think.
Whoa, yeah, that's an important one.
So, yeah, a lot of times we worry too much about the administrators. We spend an extra hour on a lesson because we know that a supervisor or administrator is coming in. And really, if you're just doing your job, do your job.
Yep. The only other one I would have said was focusing on student learning, but it's kind of that last one you just said too in a roundabout way. Not worrying about kind of what other people or your, admin is thinking about what you're doing, but doing a good job to help the kids learn. That should be the most important thing.
Right.
All right. So that's definitely a cool one to check out, and a nice little taste of it there with those 8 characteristics. My 3 choices for blogs are going to start off with one called My Paperless Classroom, which you can find at mypaperlessclassroom.com. I like this for a couple of reasons. One is, I think, first of all, and this is kind of silly, but it always tells me a little bit about something like this, and that's the title, My Paperless Classroom. What a great title. It lets you know immediately what it is and what you're going to get there. I believe, if I remember correctly, this is Sam Patterson, who's a tech integration specialist, who kind of shares some of his experiences in trying to bring tech into the classroom, of course, to make it more paperless. He brings a lot of unique stuff that you don't really hear about a whole lot as it relates to education, like toys and video games, a lot of things that we like to talk about. Minecraft in particular is one that stuck out to me. Just kind of scrolling his most recent posts right now, or some of the recent ones. He's got things on green screens with iPads, so some of the best ways you can do that. 5 essential components of successful STEAM curriculum. So there's kind of something for everybody here. They're well written, they're short, they read nicely, and some unique finds on my paperless classroom. So definitely check out Sam Patterson for one of my picks.
Yeah, that one sounds awesome.
Yep, so that's a good one. Also, ClassTechTips.com is going to be my second. This is a new one for me. I can't say a whole lot about it, but it's by Monica Burns. From what I've seen so far, best way to describe Monica, she is an expert on tech implementation. If there's a way to do it and a way to do it best, this is the blog you want to read. So if you're interested in like a particular app, let's say, and you want to know, okay, what are teachers doing to use this? Like, what are the best ways this can be done? Go check out this blog. And it's not just a blog. She's got all different kinds of posts. Some are reviews. She does some podcasts. She offers free stuff that she finds out about within the EdTech world. A lot of events and workshops, a lot of stuff over the summer, so not so applicable right now, but tons of really cool stuff on ClassTechTips.com. And my last one is...
Before you get into your last one,
Sure.
I also got to throw out that she's a Jersey girl.
Oh, no way. I didn't even know that.
She's local to us.
Okay.
I've actually heard her talk before. She's very, very good at what she does, and you got to throw it out there that her Class Tech Tips. I've been actually following that one for quite some time now.
Cool.
And I think she's awesome at what she does, and she's local. So I wanted to throw that out because I know a lot of our listeners are in the Jersey area, and that might be a good contact to reach out if your school is looking for professional development or just for someone to come out and kind of talk to them. I'm sure that she would love to work with some people in New Jersey, so check out Monica Burns.
There you go.
I also follow her on Twitter, and that's at Class Tech Tips. So
Okay, bonus points for the local girl. I like that too. And then my last one is something I don't think everybody thinks about this as a blog, but I'm going to call it a blog, and that is edutopia.org. Oddly enough, Edutopia is, I think it's maybe funded by or started by the George Lucas Educational Foundation, which is, that George Lucas from the Star Wars movies. And it's just a bunch of kind of really well put together, maybe the most professional one we've talked about blog so far today on how technology can be used in classrooms. Really, really, really cool things. Large variety. I think that's the best way to kind of sum up the stuff that you'll find on this particular blog. Just reading some of the stuff they've got in categories like assessment, formative assessment. Here's 6 teacher-approved tips for faster, more effective feedback, boosting engagement with notices and wonders. So these are things for all grade levels, just really exciting stuff. Something called 60-second strategies of discussion mapping. So these things sort of always pop out to me and seem like, oh man, that's something that I need to start doing like tomorrow. And there's a lot of that on Edutopia.
That sounds super cool. I've heard of Edutopia, but I didn't know that they wrote things. So I'll definitely check those ones out.
So, I mean, you made me play a game. I'm going to make you play a game to wrap up this whole initial segment
All
here.
I got to say is I hope it's not 2 truths and a lie, because you never stump me.
Buddy, that's all I got. And also, I think I can beat you this time. So I actually, from Edutopia, found an article called 10 Common Flexible Seating Myths. There's another great example of what Edutopia can bring to the table. 10 Common Flexible Seating Myths. And I have remastered some of those into 2 truths and a lie. So I'm going to give you some of these myths. 2 of them will be true. 1 of them will be a lie. If you've not listened to the show in a while, or if you're new to the show, this is a recurring segment that we bring back from time to time. I always believe that I can trick Geis into picking the lie, and I never can, because he is a human lie detector. But we're going to give it a shot again anyways. So
just to preface this a little bit, he keeps these articles or whatever away from me until we post them in the show notes.
Yep. So it's 10 common flexible seating myths. I'm only going to do 3 of them. Do you know what flexible seating is? Do we need to update you on what this whole thing's about?
No, but you can explain it to to the audience a little bit.
Yeah, so flexible seating is just sort of changing the classroom space to include, not just the typical hard chair at a desk. There could be bouncy balls to sit on and beanbag chairs in different areas for reading with more of like a lounge environment. There's lots of ways to interpret it, but it's kind of a trend in education that's been going on for a little while now. So I'm going to read these 3 things to you, see if you can pick out which one is not true. The first one says that flexible seating can be used for standardized testing. Flexible seating can be used for standardized testing. Here's the second one. Flexible seating helps students remain focused. So helping students remain focused. And the third one is students need to learn how to sit at a desk for the real world. One of those 3 things is a lie. What do you think?
Just read the
first one.
No, just give me a recap of each one real quick.
Okay, recap. Flexible seating can be used for standardized testing.
Okay, that one. I just don't see anywhere where it'd say like students have to be in a desk. Like I've seen students take tests at tables. I've seen them at desks. So that in itself is a little bit flexible there. I think as long as they have privacy and there's like no chance of cheating by looking at your neighbor the best you can, I think that you can have flexible seating.
Okay, so I was pretty sure that was going to be the one that would have caught you as the lie, but it is not the lie. That is 100% true. So you got that one. It's not looking good for me. Flexible seating. There are typically no rules, like you said, in standardized test guidelines that would stop a student from sitting in a different type of chair at a different space. So good for you. That's true. But what's the lie? You've got flexible seating helps students remain focused, or students need to learn how to sit at a desk for the real world.
I understand that students do need to sit at a desk for the real world because a lot of our jobs are desk jobs. But the other one is remaining focused, you said?
Yeah, that the flexible seating will help students to remain focused.
This is actually tougher because I could see that one being kind of true as well.
Really? Okay. Well, what would your best guess be?
I'm gonna probably say, man, this is tough.
We got him. I think this is my first success.
I don't know. Like, here's the thing: you have to be able to sit at a desk if you're doing a desk job in the real world. So students do need to learn how to sit in desks, but not every student.
True.
Oh, man.
That might point you in the right direction.
But then, here's the thing about flexible seating and being distracted. Like with flexible seating, if you have a wobbly chair, you get to go up and you get to go sit over at the carpet squares and you could sit down there.
Right.
So that one has to be true. Like, will they be overstimulated? No, they won't, because they can move if they are.
So you're saying that...
I'm saying that one's... Students will not be overstimulated.
Right. So it is true. You are correct. Congratulations. You're still undefeated. Flexible seating does help students remain focused. A lot of times overactive or, students that need to be moving, it helps them to be able to move. So sitting on a ball or sitting in a beanbag chair where they can kick their legs. Now they don't have to focus on the fact that they can't move. They can sort of let that part of them flow freely, and they are then free to focus on whatever's happening in class. So good job. And at least this article maintains that it's a lie to say that, or a myth, that students need to learn how to sit at a desk for the real world because, like you were wrestling with, there's some jobs that are desk jobs, but a lot of the times there's other jobs to choose from for people that don't want to sit at a desk. And even in a desk-based workplace, there's options for people to not sit down all the time. There's those standing desks and different types of chairs. So I'm upset, but Geis wins 2 truths and a lie again.
All right, segment 3 is all about our favorite podcasts. We're going to award some of our favorite podcasts with the EdTech Choice Awards. But before we get into that, I'd like to take a minute and talk a little bit about the Educational Podcast Directory. All right, this is a directory of not all, but a lot of the educational podcasts out there. And the reason why this is important is because Apple has condensed a lot of their categories in education, which is really just a disservice to everybody because now everyone's going to be harder to find. You'll be able to find those podcasts that get 50,000 subscribes or likes or downloads every month because they'll be at the top of the list. but some of the ones that aren't as popular or serve a specific niche is going to be harder to find, because podcasts that go over like how to stack 10,000 cups without using glue or tape is going to be lumped in with the education podcast.
Yeah, I think iTunes was just trying to sort of clean up their categories when you're in there looking for stuff. But like you said, it is kind of tough then, because some of the smaller, more, I guess like a niche audience, it's tougher to find something like if you specifically want ed tech. You can't look that up anymore. It's just all part of, I think, like the big umbrella category of education. So a directory like this is, I think, extra important.
Yeah, so two gentlemen, David Hennell and Jeff Bradbury, they made this directory, and I put the link in the show notes. So if you have an educational podcast, you want to be included, go to that link, and there's a little button that you can click on that allows you to fill out a Google form. But it's awesome. I always like to think that, podcasting, there's a good camaraderie there, and that we're all on the same team. We all want to grow together. And I will tell you, there's a lot of great educational podcasters out there that will go the extra mile, that will help you out if you want to start up, us included. I mean, someone helped us get started, therefore we want to kind of return the favor. So if you're interested in starting an educational podcast or any type of podcast, and you want some tips on equipment or how to get started or where to get started, just reach out to us on Twitter, and we'll be glad to help you out. And if you have questions that we can't answer, we know some great podcasters that's been doing this for a long time.
So we thought we'd contribute to this and maybe make it a little bit easier to help people find some different education podcasts. Of course, check out the educational podcast directory for an almost complete list. But we pulled in some of our picks for these this section of the Choice Awards here. We have one pick in an EdTech category, if that's what you're interested in. Maybe you like to hear some more stories. We try and pepper in some stories sometimes, but some podcasts focus on storytelling almost solely. So we've got some picks there if that's your thing. We've got one that feature guests exclusively, and also a category focusing on educational leadership, because that's so important, really helping teachers grow. Is you got to have good leaders around you to show you things and kind of inspire you and get you motivated. So I'll kick it off, and this was the toughest category for me, and that's the EdTech category. I don't do a whole lot of EdTech podcasts because we have an EdTech podcast, so most of my EdTech stuff I read about, but there's two guys out of New Jersey with a really exciting upstart podcast called GotTechED the Podcast. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Yeah, that's pretty lame.
Does that count?
We'll count it, but it's lame. It's like nominating yourself for Teacher of the Year or something like that.
I'm sticking with it. One, because I like our podcast too. Because like I said, it was tough for me to find. Obviously, if you're listening, you already know about us. But man, I think we're a solid pick for my EdTech Podcast Award.
All right, so mine, I went outside of our own little podcast area here, and I went with John Sowash's The Chromebook Classroom Podcast. This podcast is amazing for any district that went one-to-one with Chromebooks, or anyone that is working with a Chromebook. I know there's a lot of teachers out there that work on Chromebooks. He knows everything Chromebook. So if you have any questions, go over there, find him on Twitter, ask him questions, listen to his podcast. It's absolutely amazing. He goes over anything that you could think of with a Chromebook. He'll find a way to do it. It's pretty amazing.
That's cool. I like those ones that are you get some specific information, like just focusing on Chromebooks. That's really cool. And the next two categories we picked in are my favorite types, because, well, the first one focuses on people's stories, and the next one after that's going to focus on guests. That's always the most interesting to me. I just, even in the, not listening to a podcast, I just like to hear what other teachers are doing, and that's kind of what these podcasts will feature. So my choice in our stories category is a podcast called Teachers on Fire by Tim Cavey. Tim, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong there, but that podcast is what it sounds like. It's talking to teachers that are on fire. They're killing it. They're doing great in their craft, in their art. So he chats with these inspiring educators. They discuss everything that they're going through, what they struggle with. And that's one thing I really like about this. Teaching's hard. A lot of the time, all you hear is all the great things you should be doing. It helps too to kind of hear the other side. What do you struggle with? Talk about their passions, their goals, and my favorite part is just what are they doing in the classroom, and in this way you get some really kind of special, unique ideas that you wouldn't get to hear about otherwise.
So this is a very fitting podcast name because it's Teachers on Fire, and Tim is on fire. He started about the same time as us, but he has his YouTube channel up and running. He has his podcast on every major place that you could find podcasts. But the thing that I like is he he always finds a good story. And it seems like there's always something that you can relate to in each and every episode. So that I will give you a good choice on that one. I believe that's a good selection.
Thanks.
So mine can actually fit in almost every category. Actually, it does fit in every single category that we're picking. And this guy is the giffer of education. He comes out with these gifts, educational gifts. I know he runs a program called GIF a Day, but I think that gave him the platform for the podcast, and his podcast is just taking off. The podcast is called Educational Duct Tape, and it's by Jake Miller. I never met the guy. I've talked to him on Twitter. He's a very friendly guy. And the thing that I really like about his podcast is he does a lot of storytelling. And sometimes he tries to make the voices, which is my favorite part. And I can listen to this podcast in the car because, like, in one episode, he was doing, I think, the pig and the elephant from Mo Williams' books.
Okay.
Their kids' books. And, you know, my kids know that reference.
Yeah.
So they don't mind listening for it because there's usually something in there that a kid can reference. He has young kids himself, but he did one the other day on Chutes and Ladders. And he ties all these stories into education. And really his whole podcast is a big metaphor, saying that, you never start with duct tape. You know, if you're in your house, you never start with duct tape. Duct tape is usually the solution. So he uses that metaphor to bring into education that not every piece of EdTech is good to incorporate in, only the one that's fixing your problem. So I think that's very cool. So Jake Miller gets my GotTech Choice Award for the podcast in the story category.
Yeah, I like that. That's another really strong, easy to listen to podcast. Kind of same thing with our next category. I think it's guests specifically, sort of the same thing. So my pick within the guests category is another one of my favorites, just getting to sort of listen to, like I said before, other teachers talk about what they're doing. And this one features that almost exclusively. It's called Teach Better Talk. This is Ray Hugar and Jeff Gargas. Again, guys, I apologize if I pronounced your names incorrectly. Really, these two are both part of the Teach Better team, if you've heard of that, at teachbetter.com. It's just chatting with educators. That's it. Super simple, but really powerful. These people are from all around the world, kind of like the last one I gave. They just talk about everything that these educators are going through. Where have they failed? Because that's super important to hear about as well. Where have they succeeded? And my favorite part is just what are the new things they're doing that's different, that's exciting. Because like I said before, to me, that's the best stuff to listen to, because that's what gets your own creativity going and makes you say, oh, I think I could do that in my class, but here's a twist on it. Here's something I could pull in to make it work for me. So this is another one of my favorites, just to kind of hit that inspiration level on a more regular basis.
So the Teach Better team is made up of four awesome educators. They also host mastery chats on Thursday on Twitter, and I think that's at 8:30. But this is an extension outside of that, and they have something called the grid method. They make a lot of courses, so go check out Teach Better, because they're very enthusiastic in what they do, and they're very good at their craft. Mine for guests, I struggle with this one a little bit, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to give this one to Teacher Cast Anything. I'm not going to put the podcast there because Jeff has, I don't know, maybe like 15 podcasts on there.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can name a couple. He is Teacher Cast. He is Ask the Tech Coach, Educational Podcasting, EdTech in the Classroom. I think he did a code one, like Beyond the Hour Code, Tech Educator, Jersey Educator, App Spotlight. These are just some. So he always has guests on there. He's very enthusiastic about podcasting, helping people and creating websites. So he's your guru there. If you need help on any of that, go over to teachercast.net and you could check out all of his great resources and podcasts.
And then our final category, we thought we'd bring podcasts that specifically feature leadership, which, like I said before, it's so important just to for educators to be around strong leaders or at least other people that are doing exciting things. And sometimes a podcast can bring that to you as well. So my choice is one called Leader of Learning by Dan, I think it's Krines. Do you know how to pronounce it? Yeah, Krines. Awesome podcast, Leader of Learning. It really just explores what it means to be a leader, talks about different ways that leadership has transformed education. A lot of the times, educators who listen to this, if you're a teacher and you need that inspirational piece, maybe you feel like your school lacks some effective leadership and you want to see what it might take to fill that role yourself. This is a great way to get introduced to that community and kind of learn and listen and hopefully end up letting you talk to some other people too about what it means to do that and help realize your own leadership potential. Because I think as teachers, we're kind of all leaders in some way. I mean, we lead our classrooms every day. So I think that is inside of each of us, and that can be really powerful when you extend it out to, the other professionals that are around you. So I think this could be a really special podcast for people that are interested.
So my last one, this guy we met at ISTE, and I mean, he was kind enough to give us 5 minutes of his time. I think he publishes a lot of stuff that I want to make sure I read as an educator, just because the ideas are fresh. We're kind of going into the mentality of getting kids to research information, come up with their own findings, rather than just making them regurgitate facts and have these one-word answers that really is memorization. Mine goes to Ditch That Textbook, the podcast with Matt Miller. Fantastic guy. Like I said, everyone at ISTE knows Matt, and they would probably wait in line just to talk with him for 5 minutes, and we were lucky enough to bump into him. We exchanged stickers and podcast stickers, and really, he probably, in the world of podcasting, if you take all the downloads, all the subscribes and stuff like that, we are probably a pin hair of all the ones that he has. And for the fact that, he took the time to answer a question and stuff like that, it just shows that, he really values the relationships that he forms with his audience. And I really appreciate that. And I could say that is the case with all of these podcasts that we selected today. They take time to interact, whether it's on social media or at one of the presentations that they're presenting with, and they give you a lot of good stuff. And that's the reason why they're at the top, is they produce great content. It's a direction that we can follow as young podcasters. And I just think if you need, or if you want to get into the podcasting wave that's going on right now, a good place to start are with these 8 podcasts.
All right, guys. So we gave you 30 resources in total, our blog awards, our EdTech Awards, and our podcast awards. Check something out. Help your school year start off on the right foot and get inspired with some of these resources. Thanks for listening to GotTech the Podcast. Remember to subscribe to our show and follow us at We Got Tech on Twitter so you can stay up to date with the latest episode releases, blog posts, product reviews, and PD announcements. You can also follow Geis and I individually at Geis Got Tech and at Nick Got Tech on Twitter, or on Instagram at Nick Got Tech. Finally, remember to check out our website, GotTechED.com, where we post all our episodes, articles, and resources available to you for free. Until next time.